Welcome back to the GBGuns Armory, the series in which giving you a little more thoughts and feels and opening up some discussion on stuff already reviewed in full on the main channel, and oftentimes, including this one, over at GBGunsDepot.com for the full review. This looks from afar like just your plain old Gen 3 Glock 17, but this is a Franklin Armory setup, and you can see that switch right there, and in the back you get a little window. Don't worry, there's better photos on the main site. This is a binary fire capable Glock 17, and they sent this, well, the slide and trigger kit, as well as a trigger for a Stribog. I reviewed the two of them independently for videos on the main channel and combined for the article over at GBGunsDepot.com. I was a skeptic, and I told them this. When these things first came out, we saw all the major influencers giggling and mag dumping into trash. And that was kind of it. And I looked at the price of them. Typically high 3s to low 4s for a trigger to drop into an existing firearm. And said, well, that's about a case of ammo. And for a case of ammo with some good training, you can get good at shooting quickly with any firearm. So I saw this as kind of like a cheap trick, cheat, if you will, to make you quick with one firearm. Because at the time, from the content we were seeing, it looked like that's all it really was good for. And I've come to somewhat have a different opinion. After they sent it, knowing that that was my thoughts on it, I wanted to explore what the benefit was in defensive side of things. Now, the way a binary trigger works, if you're not familiar, is, make sure we're on double here, you pull the trigger and it fires, slide cycles, and when you release the trigger, it fires again, slide cycles. So it's effectively, you can potentially more than double your rate of fire. It's up to the shooter, and you have complete control of it. It's not rapid fire like holding on to a machine pistol or subgun through bursts. The trigger is weighted enough and has enough travel that it's not just going nuts. And of course, legally, it is not a machine gun. It is not any of the restricted things, because it's still one round fired per function of the trigger, as per the very definition of the stinking law. So, what good is it defensively? Well, we know that handgun cartridges are a compromise, because handguns are a compromise. We're going with less power, delivering less energy to the target, with the added benefit of it being lighter weight, more portable, and smaller. FBI statistics, at least the ones that I've seen, have said it takes at least 3 hits to neutralize the target, regardless of caliber, which is an interesting thing for all the caliber war guys out there. It seems like through all the shootings that have happened in the US, it doesn't matter what caliber you have, it's about 3 hits, because there's a certain amount of total trauma that has to be done to neutralize. It's not, I'm sure some of the big bores and some of the nasty rounds can do it in less than 3, but it seems on average from national statistics to be 3 shots. That's where hammered pairs, controlled pairs, double tapping, all that kind of stuff comes into play in delivering more trauma, delivering more energy on target. So, if you have good control of the firearm, as in good grip, this is why I was particularly interested in the Stribog, because that's much easier to hold on to and keep well aimed. Lining up your sights for 1 good shot, pulling and releasing delivers 2 good shots if you've held the firearm steady. And that's what I experimented with in the video. I, of course, also had to mag dump, not into trash, but into a target, and giggle and have some fun, because it is pretty amazing how quickly you can fire if you've got a disciplined finger for it. Now, these videos, and you guys can either wait for them to come out on the main channel or see them now at GBGunsDepot.com. That was my first outing with these things. No real practice. I think I put maybe 2 mags through total between the 2 guns off camera while filming that, but you see my first shots in those videos. The Glock 17 I found surprisingly controllable, more controllable than I had expected, which was nice. The Stribog, of course, was awesome. But I wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts are on these things. They cost, now the Glock setup is significantly more because you're getting a complete slide with night sights. You do have to still use your existing Glock 17 Gen 3 frame and provide your own barrel and recoil assembly, but chances are if you've got a Glock 17, you've already got those things. But use their slide, it's optics ready. There's a lot of, it makes sense why the Glock kit costs more than the Streetball kit. But I found it to be perfectly viable for being able to deliver more shots on target so long as you've got good control of the gun. I don't think it's a cheat that any amateur can pick up and do well with. I think any amateur can pick up and waste ammo with it for sure, but with some training and some time and experience, I think it's quite applicable. I also want to give a thanks to Franklin Armory for continuing the good fight against unconstitutional laws. Remember, as per our Constitution, there shall be no gun laws, because the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So every gun law out there is a violation of our Constitution, and unfortunately, until we get each and every one of them overturned, because that's the way our court system works, something doesn't have to be constitutional to get passed. It gets passed, then has to be challenged, then the courts have to be convinced, oh yeah, it says right there, shall not be infringed. And then they take down the law. It's annoying, but in the meantime, I appreciate that Franklin Armory is fighting the good fight to provide citizens with something a little bit closer to uninfringed rights. In this case, in the capability to deliver the proper amount of energy to neutralize a threat, or just to have a good time, because, I mean, although your right to have fun is not necessarily outlined in there, it is for the necessity of a free state, that is, to resist a tyrannical government. But I think these are pretty neat. I was really surprised. It changed my mind on them. And with the cost of ammunition increasing since these have come out, it's not necessarily a case of ammo anymore as far as the cost of a trigger. I think if you wanted to have something for a home defense setup, especially like a Streetball, that anybody could pick up, as long as they understood how that second shot was going to happen, it would be a great tool, because most people can line up one good shot. Why not make it two? As far as safety concerns, yes, you can cancel that second shot. On both the Glock and the Streetball, it's pretty easy. You just flip the switch back to your standard single shot mode before releasing the trigger, and they function fine as a standard piece. In both cases, the Streetball and the Glock, I found the trigger to be a little nicer than factory. Now, of course, the Glock thing is a bit of a joke, because pretty much any trigger is better than a factory Glock trigger. This one is, it's got a heavier, more defined wall than Glock, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's very clean and very predictable. So my opinion changed on the binary trigger setups. I think maybe some fault of Franklin Armory, maybe not. We can kind of blame the influencers who are doing the giggling mag dumps into trash for setting the tone, at least for me, for my opinion. They set the tone in the wrong direction. But I could see these as easily being a great defensive tool. I wish my local range allowed them. For some reason they'll allow law enforcement to practice, but they won't allow private citizens devices like this on the range, which I think is kind of funny, because no disrespect to cops, but for most police officers, the firearm is one of many tools that is a small part of a major, very stressful job. I'm glad they do get practice, but they are not necessarily firearms experts. Same thing goes for military, and I can say this after having spent 15 years on active duty in the Army. Just because you've got a tool that's part of your job doesn't mean you're a master with that particular tool. In fact, in most cases, it's not even part of your main job. And that's how it is for law enforcement. That's how it is for most military folks as well. Off that topic though, let me know what your thoughts are on the binary triggers, and if you've ever tried one. I don't think they're as prolific as we first thought they were going to be. Or maybe that's just ranges like mine having rules saying you can't use one there. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.